So here's our wonderful website, in which I invite you all to visit. You'll find, it's me, yeah. So, well, this website has a complete history over 15 years with photos and regular news reports. What we try to do is, what I've tried to do is run this project from the very beginning as a fully documented, transparent project. All of our statistics, everything there's about it, pretty much except financial reports, is on the website. And here we go. All right. Okay, so here you have our, after one of our more successful meetings of last year, some of our members up there greeting you. They couldn't be here today because Nicaragua, the United States doesn't allow Nicaraguans into the country unless they put up a lot of money and can prove that they're not going to, what they're not going to do, which is stay in the country as an illegal immigrant, unless they want them to stay, and then they will allow them to come in. So anyway, Henry George International Education Center. Let's see how this works. This is my first PowerPoint presentation, by the way. It's going well. So we're going to start. It's all about me. It's all about me. Started with me. This is me living out of a van in California. And I'm going to tell you about me because some time ago someone asked me, could you, give us, why did you become a Georgist and everything? And I never got around to it, so I thought, okay. First thing, I was brought up in a place where we ran wild over, land all around. It was a suburb kind of thing. We ran through neighbors' yards, and when there was a new construction, we played in the new construction. We did whatever we wanted to, and we just believed that the land was ours, pretty much. Never believed in, never believed that you had to pay for what was there. So that's me.
The sensing of the thing, are you seeing the same?
Oh, you're right, you're right. No, this is unfortunately our situation here. So I'll just have to, more as like notes, reading notes for me. You're not missing much.
Okay.
So, and my father was a university philosophy professor, and I'm just showing you the formula here, right? So you're getting an idea. And in our house, we're Catholic and interested in foreign helping, Marino kind of stuff like this, and I brought up with that. And when I did go out into the world, for some reason, I always settled in communities that were just starting to kind of recover from a recession, because I instinctively always look for low rent. That's what I said, okay, I'll stay here. So I drove around the country a couple times in my lifetime, and always, like Austin, Texas, after it had a collapse, that's where I stopped. And then when that started to recover and build up and the rent were about to go up, I, for some reason, was guided to go to another place. And I went to Santa Barbara, California, exactly the same situation. Went back to visit a month later in Austin, Texas, the place I'm living with. They had raised the rent literally 100%, because they were still holding it down because I was still there. When I went, they said, okay, time to raise the rent. And then I went to Managua, Nicaragua, the same deal. When I went to Nicaragua, there was no cars in the road. I loved driving around in my rental car when I went there, when I first was visiting. Thought this is the place for me.
Going back to the original hairstyle?
Yeah. Oh yeah, when I was in Santa Barbara, that's when I was living in the van and sleeping up in the mountains, and so that's me. I just believed that the land was there to be, and I never had a problem with it. Never had a problem. No one ever had a problem with me. In fact, one time a neighbor came and said, since you're sleeping here, the rich people had my houses in the hills, and one of them came by and said, since you've been sleeping here, there's been no crime here. So I don't know what had anything to do with me, because I wasn't the only one either. And then people started, and then when that, I wonder if I go back, what can be done now? And at one point, while I was starting a business or a helping project for Nicaragua, I was doing my marketing, and I happened upon Lindy Davis' website, and I saw the Law of Rent presentation, and I was just smitten. And I talked to Lindy a couple times, and went out and bought a used copy of Progress and Poverty, and I thought, all right, I'll just read this until I find the inherent contradiction in the utopian literature, right? And I'll get back to my miserable life. Because I was really an unintegrated, really unsettled person. I couldn't understand why they taught me these great values growing up, you know, civic values, religious values and everything. And then when you go out in the world, it'd say, you know, cut throats and take no enemies, take no prisoners kind of thing, and become a successful, admired person. And I just had trouble. I had problems. And so when I got to halfway through, I was like, aha, there's the contradiction right there. And the next page is like, oh, okay, all right. He answered that one, we'll get it. And by the time I got halfway through the book, I said, okay, this is the real thing. And I was saved. I was personally, I mean, I know other people who I can mention also have that kind of experience. It basically made me an integrated human being, started to make me an integrated human being, because the more I read, like I said, I read it full 5 times over a period, you know, and then I decided in 2000, when I moved down to Nicaragua, I'm going to teach this, and we start this program that we started. And that's where I got into translating it, and I translated it, and I've just been over the text so much, I mean, it's just right there in my head. And finally, yeah, founded the Instituto Henry George. That was kind of like a mirror to the Henry George Institute. And we even started teaching the course using Lindy's materials, translated and transmuted. And and Lindy it was like we were a mirror of the Henry George Institute down there. And that relationship served very well, starting in 2000. And my organization, just like my project, Nicaragua Spanish Schools, which was founding the Spanish school industries in Nicaragua, was totally kind of, oh, here's the other thing, right? Paying no taxes, reporting to nobody, not registered in anything, because we're in like the Wild West of Nicaragua in the late 90s. And again, that's where I went, right? That's where I instinctively went, because I was inside, you know, a Georgist waiting to find progress in poverty, apparently. And so we started that, and that was going, and that was working as a kind of an informal kind of thing, but for Nicaragua, it's quite formal. In fact, the way we taught it was, you know, people were the credibility was because of the way we run it kind of like officially, and we had logos and this and that kind of stuff. So that's me. So I'm down there in Nicaragua. And we've taught 56 progress in poverty courses that at the beginning were like 6 classes, and since 2004 maybe it went to a full like 14 classes over a month's time. Not that long, but you know, a month's it always taught us an intensive course, based completely on progress in poverty. Basically, I say to people, if you are able to go home and read Progress in Poverty, you know, go ahead. This course is about doing it, and we're going to help you do it. We're just going to help you read the book. And I've always believed that it's about the book. When I say I'm a Georgist, I don't care what Henry George, you know, thought or said. I'm just saying that I read Progress in Poverty, and I'm going with Progress in Poverty. That's my vote for how I want things to be. That's what I mean by being a Georgist. For me. Okay, so context. And for those of you who have been over the last couple of days asking me questions, and I said, well, I'm going to talk about that in the presentation. Here we go. A little bit. Nicaragua. Oh, you can't see that. Okay, good. Nominal republic with a non-representative parliamentary government, basically a de facto one-party national socialist dictatorship government. And I'll say this in Nicaragua, and if people would say, well, you're against the government, because if I am and I'm intervening, they can just deport me. But I'm like, no, if you like that, that's not even a problem with that. You like living with a dictatorship and all this kind of thing, and the Nicaraguan Sandinista ruling party, the people who are in that, they're not going to argue that either. When they want to have a march, everybody's got to get out to the march, and if you don't, you lose your job.
Wow.
That's just how it is, everybody knows. Why is that, you know, and that's normal. See, what's interesting always about being with different cultures is that what's normal in one is not normal in another, but for them it's normal. Why is it normal? Well, I guess I'll get to that the next slide. I forgot about. Okay, so this is the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere. Only Haiti is poor. If you like numbers, you get $11.8 billion GDP. The per capita is less than 2,000. But their growth, just interestingly, has been exceeding the average for Central America. So they're kind of like an up-and-coming poor country. because there's still, I was wondering at the exit of the airport here in the Detroit area, how that one place where I came out under the highway would be the major structure of Nicaragua. Just what I could see from there, that would be like the showcase building of Nicaragua, the parking garage of the airport. To give you an idea. Heavy reliance on international loans and family remittances from abroad. So all the people in other countries who work in the other go and have to go abroad to support their families. It's a big thing, and they consider it part of their income of the country, and the loans and the things like that. That's by being a poor country, right? It's all about being indebted and not being able to do for yourself. And they're also, just to give you the context, they're rated the 26th most taxing country in the world of 190, according to this website, doingbusiness.org. In other words, that much obstacle to doing business as far as taxes go, right? And then they've got a lot of high import taxes. They're basically behind isolated behind a tariff bubble. You know, it's like, and we're like, we can see on the internet things, you can't import them. No, as soon as something comes in, the price gets so high, there's no demand for things at that price. So basically, it's a huge, still kind of Spanish conquest, monopoly kind of situation, oligopoly kind of situation. And the district import, export, distribution has to go through these, gatekeepers, which is pretty frustrating because on the other hand, which makes prices very high, totally distorts what we would think of as a normal economy. But in this poor country, their number one export is gold. And it's been growing over the last decade, these exports more and more and more, and they're exporting gold. So this is just something interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
When we give it the course. I didn't even realize it myself until a year ago, and it started to show up in the newspaper that now it's the number one export. And then when I say it to the students, when we're talking, did you know that, what's the number one export of your country? We're so poor, is it? Can you imagine?
Wild.
Plenty of land, by the way. Plenty of land. What does it say here? Population 6.1 million, but nearly one half live in just one little part of the country. Now, if I had my mouse working, I guess it doesn't. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so like half the population living just about here. And if I could move it over, you can see the rest. And pretty good, huh? Pretty nice, sweet deal. You got a whole ton of land open there. What's going on? Most young adults live in their mom's house because they can't afford to. Young families live jammed up, and people don't get married or whatever, but they want because they can't. But they do, and then they live in all scrounged up together because there's no land, man. And when they do, a lot of the housing, they're sharing walls and things like this. Okay, I don't know if that's typical third world or typical poor, whatever, but in Nicaragua, that's what it is. High and underemployment, up to 50% what we call underemployment, meaning not earning enough to live, basically. And the formal sector would be, even in the formal sector, basic wage would be like 100 and something a month dollars, which doesn't mean anything really unless you compare to the costs, but it's pretty tough. And they got a high immigration, which brings the remittances back, right? Because people can't find where to work in their own country, so they got to go to some other country, and then they can send back the money to their estranged families. Solely, and the immigration is not for oppression or anything like this. It's solely for economic opportunity. Three, whatever. Okay, statistics. God love them. Land history. Before the Spanish conquest, the tradition was communal land, and they either had a kind of a semi-democratic or a totally autocratic system, but basically there was a lot of recognition for the communal ownership of land. And and there's some other interesting things that they did, but let's just leave it at that. And then the 16th century, the Spanish came along, and immediately, and I'm sure most of us know this, immediately Latifund and Nicaragua got chopped up, and everybody who was on the piece of land was a slave of the Spanish persons. And even when they did do away with slavery, it was still basically the same kind of deal because because the ownership aspect of the land. So it's from the very beginning, and that's important to recognize, not just for us in a presentation, but also when we talk to the people who are trying to teach us. That did you know that the big difference here is between the other countries where maybe people had some opportunity, you guys never had from the beginning, unless you were of the ruling class. Land has just been closed from the very beginning. So when we start talking down there about freedom and access of land, they're like, yeah, but that doesn't exist in reality. Really? And during the development over time, yes, there were common lands, and you can still see there's like a ton of land open, but as soon as any land becomes valuable, it's right, as soon as any land becomes valuable, there shows up the lawyers and the police and say, no, someone owns this. As soon as there's any land. So there's no way for people to really squat on any kind of decent land. You have to like keep on going out there. Anytime anything happens that gives a commercial or any kind of value to the land, somebody comes out and says, we own it. And the system allows them to do that somehow. And then we have the famous Sandinista Revolution, and although they did confiscate land for communal, for state use and whatnot, they really didn't make any changes in the land tenure laws. So as soon as that was reverted by the counter-revolution, which ended at the end of the 80s, with the Sandinistas basically saying, okay, let's have elections, and then the other US-supported government came in, it just kind of started to revert back. And anything that had become public got privatized, and it just went back. It was just like, the Sandinista Revolution was just kind of like a pause in the regular process the other countries are going through. It was just a pause. And so land ownership and concentration and speculation continued on. As far as, this is just something interesting to note, the U.S. collaborated with a series of Nicaraguan governments in a huge payout of Nicaraguan public funds, because during the 80s when they confiscated the lands in Nicaragua for public use, then when the Sandinista government turned over to the government of the United States, says, we're not going to give you any financial help unless you pay off all these confiscated owners. So there had to be, every year, Nicaragua had to report how many victimized, confiscated owners had been indemnified, thank you, English. So what happened? In the 80s, of course, what were the values of the lands in a war-torn country when they were confiscated? Do I have to even finish the point, right? So they just confiscated these abandoned lands and very subutilized and low producing, even with factories on them and stuff, And then when they had to pay back, they had to give a mean average of a whole lot of money. It's like, why are we poor? Said the Nicaraguan people. So this is one of the major scams, major scams that's based totally on speculative valuation of land. They said, well, it was worth, but no, all this progress that has come about since the war now, we have to pay us for it, right? So instead of like, well, we're now, recovering from the war, it's like we're recovering from the war and give it to the poor, now US citizen, confiscated Nicaraguan victims. And they'll be done paying that off in 2023, the estimate is. So now we get to the Henry George Center in Nicaragua, operated 2000-2009, as I said, as the Instituto Henry George, kind of like in alliance with the Henry George Institute, which is Lindy's organization. And then we made it a legal nonprofit in 2010 after trying to somehow ally or become absorbed really by another organization. Personally, I didn't want to have another Georgist organization with another set of paperwork and another set of, tax reporting and all this to be done. And I tried with a couple, and it just didn't seem to work out. And then it did seem the right thing to do to, start it. And we founded that in the United States because it was a lot easier to just register to Nicaragua as a U.S. nonprofit than to register as a Nicaraguan nonprofit, because that would have taken like a year to do, and in Nicaragua it just took a week to do, to register it as a U.S. nonprofit. So we decided to do that. And what do we do? We just teach that one course. That's basically our purpose, is to teach the course. But what happened is, after about 10 years or more of doing that, we realized, we looked around and we said, well, where are the Georgists amongst us? And we saw that what was happening to us has happened to a lot of other organizations. We taught a lot of people, and we kept teaching them, but that one thing, this is something that Ed Dotson likes to point out repeatedly, and from your very, very incisive observation, that if you don't get in, you just can't paste Georgism onto somebody. It's got to go through a process that comes, gets to them. And so I was really looking this over, and I was kind of getting to where I'm sick of this. Have you ever seen the movie The Matrix, where the evil robot guy is saying to the hero who's in chains, and he's saying, "Let me tell you something. I'm sick of being here. I can't stand the taste of being among you humans." Anyway, that's how I felt. I was like, I can't stand teaching this anymore. To just see people come in and go away, and come in and go away.
Maybe they bought land after doing it.
Yeah, maybe they went to the United States and became real estate investors. But that wasn't the case, unfortunately. Even that would have been a success, right? At least they would have been aware of what they were doing. So that's where, I don't know if this comes along with this. Oh yes! We created, out of the necessity of survival, emotional survival, the Georgist Community Fund came also as another idea, just as the Henry George Institute founding came as an idea that we need to keep the people together. Keep the people together so that they don't just go out the door. Because we have this idea that since we've got, admittedly, the greatest product in the world, if I give you this product, you're going to go out and want to tell everyone about it. And that's what we thought about educating people. And we actually had some participation in meetings that we just didn't have something to make it stick and make it grow. It kind of like, you want it to grow and grow and get some power. And so we got a whole concept behind that, which I'm going to try to explain in the time that I'm here, of why this Georgist Community Fund seems to be the way to go as part of an educational process, without which I don't think it's worthwhile. Personally, I'm talking about. And we also do some other things that are basically just to get people in. We got some other strategy tricks and whatnot that we could, because we got this center, we can offer things to the community. Come on in and take this course and take this class. And meanwhile, you got posters about Henry George about Georgism around, and we're hoping that, just by numbers, like say, run enough people through, show them you're full of brushes, and someone's going to buy it. So, sure, why not, right?
Worked for me.
And we've been basically doing all this on an average budget of less than $9,000 a year. And this is also very important thing to know. Because that, of course, doesn't include paying for me, or paying for the building, or paying for things that I've contributed. If I added that in, then it would be something else. But basically, these are the funds that we use to do our program. Struggle to do our program. So here's the part about the course. What is it? How does it work? Okay. How does it go? 5-week intensive course, totally based on progress and poverty. We do want people to read the book, and we do our method is try to reinforce people using the book. And it's what else does it say here? Maybe I don't have to just make this up. Okay, free course, right? Come on in, it's free. I'll tell you right now that as at this point, if it's given again, the next course that's going to be given again is not going to be free, and that's just for a strategic reason. Maybe I'll talk about that later. And we try to give it at least 4 times a year. And lately, I mean, we've always been trying to make things work better every time. The whole total quality, get feedback and see what's working and whatnot. So we went to, for instance, a double session, afternoon and evening session, instead of just, at first it was an evening class, then it was an afternoon class. Now it's going to be afternoon and evening. These are like 2.5-hour classes, three times a week.
You mean they come in, they do the afternoon, they take dinner break? And
No, it would be two separate
Two
classes
separate
of the
classes,
course,
one.
trying to get more people, all
Okay.
about numbers. And the numbers that has worked, actually. You know, just trying to make it more available, right? What can we do to make it available?
Yeah.
Make it free, put it in a nice building. We even at some point for the night courses paid for a shuttle to bring people from the building to their bus stops, because the Nicaraguan buses stopped running at the time our classes stopped in the evening, which is a problem. And you know, there's so many logistical problems, right, to get people into a conference room for even. And so we have our publicity. We used our website. We emailed directly. We used classified ads, which we can afford down there. Even on that budget, we can afford classified, a nice big classified ad even, running for like 2 weeks. We get on TV and radio and try to get some free stuff there. A lot of flyering, which involves volunteer work of our students, a lot of flyering in the universities. Now all these things are becoming, because Nicaragua is progressing, growing, becoming more expensive and inaccessible, right? The universities are realizing, hey, we've got something, you know, people are coming, you can't put your flyer, now you need permission, now we won't give you permission. So it's kind of getting a lot tighter. And the budget, you know, has to pay for that kind of stuff too, so. But you can still get on TV and radio. They don't even know you show up to them in the interview and they're like, okay, tell me what you're about. So they just want to fill some time maybe. So you can get on if you work it. And then of course our members networking, which actually is one of probably our weakest aspects, unfortunately. And our course is very rigorous, so you understand. The attendance is mandatory. Basically, my attitude is, if I'm going to be here, you're going to be here. That's pretty much it. Cell phones off, please. You know, let's pay attention, because I, as a teacher, my number one question is always, why are you here? Why are you not at home watching TV? You know, and if you think that's where you should be, go, please. The only reason we keep on teaching these classes is because people showed up. Not because I got a salary, and I got to justify a salary, trust me. So it's like, every year I was like, I don't know, maybe we've saturated the market, maybe people aren't going to show up, but they kept showing up, and so we kept on offering. What does it say here? Yeah, we have homework after every class. You got to take the homework through, and that means you have to read the book to find the answer in the thing. We're just trying to get people to read the book. Now, people in Nicaragua don't read. They don't like to read. I don't know how it is in Honduras, but it's probably the same. And it's not because they're Nicaraguans, or it's because of the economic situation at the time. I mean, just getting to the class, you know, the buses, right, in the rainy season and this and that, I mean, it's pretty amazing that these people show up on time. And we give them a little lead time, too. I mean, it's all incentive. Everything's incentive. Show up on time, but if you show up a little late, you get a little point off. So if you miss a class, you can miss one class, and if not, then you can't get a certificate. So everything is a scaled incentive system that we've, over time, you know, just reward, I guess that's meritocracy kind of thing, right? Reward the effort, and reward the work. And then we give out a certificate, and for some reason in Nicaragua, our printed certificate with a stamp on it means something. And people want to have the certificate, and they put it on their resume even. That's one of their training things that they've gone through, so good. So we're trying to play all those angles. Sure, you know, if we can give you value, you'll come, and you have to look at what they value. And yeah, and then it says declaration. Oh yeah, and then we offer them membership in our Georgist Community Fund of our graduates who reach a certain level. So there's always something to achieve in the class. If you reach the superior level of the class, you're automatically a member of this international organization called the Georgist Community Fund. And then we explain what that's about. And if you don't finish, you got to go home and you're a failure. No, you can come back as many times as you want. And even if you reached up to 79%, because 80% above superior level, if you get up to 79, when you come back the second time, you only have to mandatorily show up for half of the classes. And you can choose which ones. And that gives you the right to hand in, again, the homework, which is going to affect your grade for that class only. So there's all about choices and motivation. People decide what they want to do. Totally. And they can retake it again, and there go until they finish. And then when they get to the superior level, they can become Georgist Community Fund members, and they can work as paid volunteers in our program. So there's always going up the scale of what they can do and how they can participate.
Paid volunteers?
Paid volunteers.
And when they are paid volunteers, what do they do?
Exactly, whatever. It's by an hourly. So it's like volunteer time too. It's just like you have some free time. Commitment can be as a day.
Teach? Do they take attendance? Do they sweep the floor? What do they?
Yes. Yes. Whatever we need to do. Whatever we need to do. And I'll address the thing about the teaching because that's a big deal. I mean, sweeping the floor and teaching is a different thing. Yeah, so we got also follow-up workshops. So we're trying to get people through the door, right? But we're not saying, you know, oh, you like Henry George? Oh, you're a member. You know, we're trying to make people feel like they have accomplished something, not just accomplish it, but they understand what the heck we're talking about and what they're talking about, and that makes them part of the group, association. So we have the classes and the whole thing, and you can come back again. And between classes, we try to offer workshops for those who got up to a higher level but didn't quite make it. This intermediary level, we'll call it. So we give a workshop of like 2 weekends in a row and another exam. There's a final exam. There's a comprehensive final exam, about 90 questions. Oh my God. And you'd be amazed. You know, when we first did it, everything was essay. We had essay questions on the tests, on the take-home tests, and essays on the final exam. Can you imagine, as a teacher?
Okay.
Can you imagine that? Right? So then we came up with the idea of multiple choice, right? Because after that. But they would do it, and I was amazed. I was like, I can't believe they're writing all this stuff. And that was when we started out, you know? That was when the great opportunity for the investment in Nicaragua as a Georgist nation was available. And I know that I just said something there. Because as Nicaragua gets more modernized, is it getting more modernized to a more free-thinking kind of thing, to a more kind of participative way of thinking, or is it being folded into the drone slave mentality? There are windows of opportunities in these kind of countries. And unfortunately, it's not getting better as the international global world gets into Nicaragua. And this is what is this? Oh, results, okay. So anyway, over these years, we've had 11,000 something applications that we've given to people who've come to us. We've received 5,000, about half of those, and there's a percentage there. And then we've started 3,500 something people in the classes, and we've had finishers of a little less than 2,000. You see that's 55%. So we don't, you just don't come in and, that's something that not everybody can do. I mean, we're trying to make this real. To me, this is like, make it real. You get out there, that's why when we give these certificates, they have a value. And we play that up. We talk about that this is something that's valuable, that you're making it valuable. And then we have a petition that people sign, which is a demonstrative petition that we can take when we go to TV and radio. And we'll say, well, this is what we're saying, but this is what 1,700 people who have been informed about this are saying too. So we use that as a tool. And that's an indicator too, right? That's an indicator of how people are thinking, because that's not a required thing. You don't have to sign the petition to graduate or anything. We just pass it around. And then we have, from the Georgist Community Fund, how many members since 2012? We've got that, 195 members. Now, if we started the Georgist Community Fund membership organization earlier, you can bet we'd have hundreds and hundreds of members today, I believe. Because I'm going to demonstrate how that works. Oh yeah, here's just the graph. And you can see all this on our website, by the way. You can just see how our ups and downs, and you can't see the bottom. Maybe if I just, oh yeah, I'm on wrong program. But below you have had the years, you can't see the years here. And these are the last. And it looks like we're finishing off here, but there's the next one. And this is going to kill me in this presentation, actually. Because the last year is right here, and it's down here. This is this year. And so we're like up and down, we're up and down. And this last year, for a reason I will share with you a little later, we're not doing too well this year. And here's the Georgist Community Fund. How does it work? It's a prototype model. It's not meant, we're not saying this is going to be the Georgist movement. We're saying this is a prototype model for building an international Georgist movement. It's kind of like an experiment, just like the whole project is an experiment, basically. We're not doing anything, it's not a franchise, someone's idea. We're building it as we go and trying to be as honest as we can to respond to the results. And it says here, it probably cannot succeed a local movement alone, and I believe that. I believe that if you're going to say, okay, Nicaraguans, you've never really experienced freedom, except if you do go out into their farther lands, there are people who are independent and all this, but as soon as anything happens, the government comes in, so they never really have a sense, I think, especially the people we work with, the urban people, of what freedom is. And when you're saying, okay, we want you to spearhead an international movement of freedom in the world, by yourselves, not going to happen. That's a result of trying it. That's not my opinion. I don't think that's a reality that I've been able to demonstrate, although we've been able to demonstrate some building a membership. Whoa, that's a lot. But why have this Georgist Community Fund? I mean, we've been challenged by people in this very room. It's like, well, why are you doing that? That's not even, I'm not going to support that. That's not a good thing. Why would I bother to do that? Okay, let's see if this makes sense. Paradigm shift. Oh yeah, this is a paradigm. We're trying to offer a different way, a different perspective on how to do this kind of thing. Instead of trying to work from here outward, we're saying, let's build inside first. Let's build ourselves up first. Like all the organizations that have been successful in the world, you at least have to build yourself, and from that base, that's where your strength is going to be. If it's a small base, it's going to be small strength. If it's a big base, it's going to be a big base. And that's at least in Nicaragua. In fact, in a country like Nicaragua, the only way you're ever going to get something done is you get people to come out and to physically say, do it. And this might be something like you have a lawsuit and you're well paid, your lawyer is doing this and that, and the paper's there, and they just won't move it. The secretary's there, and he goes back every day, and he won't move it. And so what you send the whole family. You send the family, and then they're there, and the mothers, and then say, who's the person who's with this one? And you just physically, with the people, push the thing forward. So our idea is, we want a strong populist base that is going to be able to make things move, people. And as it grows, it will get something called social gravity, and that power, that force. That's the idea. Because otherwise, my experience was, I have no problem with Georgia. It's an incredible thing. It's the best product. It's the best fuller brush that was ever invented. It will clean everything. But it ain't enough, and it is not enough, in my opinion, that there are some people of whatever profile that are willing to, say something about it. I would trade one Joe Stiglitz for a certain amount of popular support, personally. And I think it follows some examples of successful organizations, from religions, Zionist movement, whatever, large things that have basically grown themselves and tried to acquire this kind of a mass power amongst themselves. And I think that's something that, to me, is very important for a Georgist movement. And that goes into, there needs to be belief in the success of your participation in this movement. And when you see people around you, right? We say, we come here to renew our batteries, someone said. Dave Witzel, right? At least, right? At least. We renew our batteries because we look around and we see, oh, there's these other people. We get the support. And look at the let's say you come to this class and say, well, we got this thing, it's called the Bible. Best book in the world. We're going to give you a 5-week course on it. And you just see all these wonderful things. Thank you very much for coming. Now go out and be a good person and have a religion. Or be saved. But they don't do it that way, do they? They make a church, and they want you to come back in again and talk about it and reinforce it, because it's not about going to the store and buying something concrete. It's something that is, right, ideas. I don't think there's any organization that's based on concept or ideas that's going to just say, okay, now you know it, you go out and do it. I think this is a testimony, my experience, a testimony to the great importance of social participation in this kind of thing. So it's about getting people together. And I think real people together and physically together as much as you can is a good thing. And that's going to build that belief. And the belief, it's a unvicious circle. That's what I've seen. That if we can just, get these, people into this meeting, wow, like I'm inspired, they're inspired, and that kind of takes us to the next meeting, to the next. And then if it's the opposite, if you don't get people in, it's kind of like the energy starts to go down too. So there's a lot of nuts and bolts, and this has got nothing to do with Georgism. There's realities of building groups and organizations and things. And I wish Jeff Smith was here, because he's very inspiring to me in his willingness to speak out about the importance of that. That's what my experience over 15 years has shown me. All right. Let's hope these will be a little smaller, these text things, but. And we believe that it's very important to use the one universal text. This is where all these free thinkers are going to not like this. Maybe? Because I've heard about, we should change the name of this and, progress and power, but you have to read all this. Someone said you have to read all this stuff to know. No. One text. One authority, make of it what you will, but one authority, because if we want an international movement with a lot of people, do you want to complicate that? And by the way, I haven't transcended George yet. Anyone here has transcended Henry George? No, I'm really. You transcended Henry George. There's one right there. Okay. Anyone else? You transcended Henry George. Okay, good. See, I don't believe that. At least for me. I think that, I probably won't by the end of my lifetime even transcend Henry George. I think, in fact, if I live to see just the minimal reform, I think that's enough for me, So anyway, simple, keep it simple, because this is another principle of movement building. I think you want to complicate it, then you just want to dismantle your movement. So we have the one book. We don't teach the other stuff even. If the goal is to, educate people and have them have this become knowledgeable, that's not our goal. We don't want people to become, through us, as a requirement that you have to know everything about Henry George and about his works and everything. We just want you to know this really impossible thing for most of the world to know. That's all. Keep it simple. And so we also teach it in a way, myself, I don't like to get into the real complicated stuff. And I don't think it's because I'm not intellectually capable, but it's because I want to always practice what is going to be feasible for building a popular movement. Why would I want to make it more erudite or more elite or more complicated than what the people are going to be able to, get into? So I think just it's like, how can we simplify? And that's what we do. Everything we've done is to try to simplify. For instance, we don't use the real text, the full text. We use an abbreviated text in our course. Why would we do that? This is not better than the original, but we do it, and we have a super abbreviated one, right? And then you could have, just we're trying to get people. And the thing is, if you say, well, I'm not sure that this one is, I'm not sure about that. Well, then refer to this one. Well, I'm not sure. Well, here's the original. And I think when you get to that time, like George says, there's nothing in the book that doesn't, explain itself, pretty much. But if you want to split hairs, if you want to, you can make it as complicated as you want, but we're just not interested in that. I think getting back to me personally, one thing else I should have shared with you about me, the reason I chose Spanish as my foreign language in high school is because it was the easiest thing to do. The reason I learned about Nicaragua was because in university, the professor said, select a country and follow it in the news. And I said, well, Nicaragua is in the news, so I'll follow Nicaragua. And tell you the truth, I'm not really interested in teaching Nicaragua or even teaching Georgism or being a Georgist. But someone's got to do it. That's the only reason. And if someone says, you just want to take over the movement, or you just want to do this and that because your Georgist Community Fund is trying to copy something or whatever and confuse, and I'll say, take it over, please, and integrate it into yours, and show the same performance, projection and all that. I have no problem with that. I got 6 kids and yay many wives and all this kind of stuff, and I don't need it. I don't need it, friends. There may be people who are just like, if there wasn't a Georgism, we'd have to invent it. If there wasn't Georgism, we'd have to invent it. No, it's needed. It's needed, right? So anyone who's going to challenge me on that kind of stuff, like you or this, and it's got nothing to do with me, because you can step right into my boots anytime you want to, anytime. So we're trying to So as to ensure long-term international and cross-cultural unity, keep it simple, and a solid democratic base as well, because when you get, these are just regular principles, right? You get into elitism and legalism and this, and what happens? You get a special class of people who know what's going on, and the rest of people don't, and they got to refer to them. Keep it simple so that everybody can participate. And it doesn't have to be more complicated. That's our philosophy. I'm not telling you what to do. To prevent doctrinal and political corruption. And believe me, I know about political corruption, at least, living in Nicaragua, and how things like that happen. And then, of course, you look back here, and it's so easy to see that what's happening there is, we all know that. We're all adults here. So you get your qualification for the Georgist Community Fund by going through a basic progress in poverty course. Like someone who's gone through a course and can demonstrate by some kind of objective measuring tool that they know, something, not something, but the basic principles. We'd accept that as a qualification. It doesn't have to be our course, but the thing is, we're the ones who are doing this, so we do that. And in Nicaragua, everyone's got to go through our course. They score 80%. They don't need to do anything more. They're automatically accepted as a member. But then what they have to do is make a declaration that they accept us. We accepted them. Now, do they accept being part of our group? Right? I want to be a Georgist. What does it mean? I'm not going to show it. I've got too many things, right? But there is the declaration online, and it's basically that I'm a Georgist, and by being a member, I am giving a vote for Georgism in the world. That's it. By being a member, I am saying I am for Georgism. That's the service that we're trying to do with the Georgist Community Fund. Give people a place where they can make a statement in group with other people that can be visible and recognized. And we have a paper test, which is there's just a qualifying exam for everybody who wants to be a member. You got to score 70% on this qualifying exam about progress in poverty. And it's in paper, and we have it online. And what we do is we pre-qualify people. Like, imagine that most of you people would be pre-qualified as able to take the exam, right? And so you'd go online and you spend a half an hour. How hard is the exam, Ted? Because Ted's done it.
Yeah, I've done it every year. I think it's 50 questions, and I usually miss 1 or 2 questions.
Oh.
Because you change the questions every year.
No, I don't. That's the thing also. We're trying to be an inclusive organization. So you know what? People are afraid of taking tests. You know why they're afraid of taking tests? Because it's going to exclude them. You fail the test, you got to take your year over. You can't go on to the university, right? Forget it. You fail the test, take it again. The same test. Just wait a week. We said, well, let's wait a week so we can imagine that you maybe cracked open progress and poverty or something, or refresh your mind. So you can take it as many times as you need. So it's like, come on, it's a formality, but it's a very important formality. It's a very important formality. I don't want to be like, you're a member of an organization, but I don't know if you've ever read Progress in Poverty or understand it or anything. And a very famous amongst us, Georgist, said to me, wrote an email to me actually, and he said, it's almost embarrassing what he said, and I actually have it. I could show it, but it's kind of like, actually having reviewed my consideration of the people I know who say they're Georgists, I understand why you require the test. And that's my thing. That's my thing. And not to be, like more Georgist than thou, but I mean 70% on our test. And the thing is that people say, it would give us feedback that this question is invalid. Because I'm a great believer in that the test itself is being tested, right? The test itself is always being tested. So it's an instrument. It's not a, holy judgment of people. And luckily, everybody who's taken the test basically is getting in the high 80s, who I would expect it. I'm like, oh God, I hope this person doesn't fail, And lo and behold, the test is working because it is basically demonstrating that what you would expect the result to be. And so what our program consists of is qualifying, being a member. All you have to do to be a member is be a member. You renew 1 year by taking the test. Just demonstrate you haven't forgotten it. You haven't forgotten about what really is going on in Progress in Poverty. And by just being a member, we're successful. However, to help us grow further and faster, then we invite people to come to meetings in Nicaragua, monthly meetings, to demonstrate solidarity. This is what all popular movements do. When you come and you show up, and there's 10 people, and you go, this sucks, this is going nowhere. Or if you show up and there's 40 or 50 people in a room like this, you go, hey, They were, yeah, you know, and you have a clatter and claps, and you're like, ah, and you want to come back to the next meeting, and you bring other people with you, right? I mean, it's just, you know, I'll tell you, I personally, I know I'm not an expert on anything in this world, anything at all. I can do a lot of things, but I'm not an expert in anything, and it's all about trying and testing and result and everything, and so that's just basic nuts and bolts of building organizations. I wish Jeff Smith was here. And we have a little idea of co-membership amongst our members. This is like getting a little bit nuts and boltsy. But like saying in our members, I said, okay, you will select yourself a co-member, and in between the two of you, you agree that one of you at least is going to show up to the meeting, right? So we've got 80 people in our members, we're going to get at least 40 people showing up. And you say, you go to the meeting? I don't want to go. Well, we made a commitment. Okay, you go to the meeting, whatever. Or you can both go too. So it's just a little trick, right? But I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of the little trick because I think it's going to help. And also new members kind of get a little sponsorship as they're coming in, right? They get a kind of a sponsor, kind of getting a little spirit. And the other thing we offer is we have our fabulous website, and we have a Facebook page, which I wish you would all visit. And we also we send out our emails. I guess this is at a time where I should mention that we have a little sign-up sheet in the back. We send out an email to a list of about 300 or so people, and I'm always putting on, opt out if you want to opt out. In fact, once a year at least, I put on the top, I say, please opt out if you do not want to be in this. Now, I don't know if we're just being ignored or people want to get me on the list, but I'll ask all of you, if you're on our email list, we're just going to keep on sending it, right? But if you want to formally opt in or opt out, we have a little sheet there. No hard feelings. Because I don't want to be sending emails to people who don't want to be sending the emails. Like I said, I don't even want to be doing this. But if you want to be doing this with me, I want to be doing it with you. That's the motor for me. That's the motor. What else? Demonstrating leadership and participation is the key to making the association grow. It is important for international Georgist leaders to be members of the Georgist Community Fund so as to encourage membership growth in less developed countries. And this is my main point of this talk. Because if I leave here, and this is like not a threat, this is just a reality. If I leave here without a substantial amount of members signed up here, I'm just not going to do this anymore. Think about it for a second. Why the hell would I do that? Why would I continue on? Why would anyone in Nicaragua say, oh, look, this thing that was created by North Americans in but they don't really care about what we're doing here, do they? No. They kind of think that's kind of nice and cute that the Nicaraguans have an association or something, but we're not going to lift a finger to be a member too, to show them that we support what they're doing and that actually they're part of something that we're doing. And this is a main principle. You know why this thing has flown so much? For just my prestige as a foreign person in Nicaragua. Right? Just my prestige as being this foreign person who's come and is doing that, and they're like, people, I can't believe you will help Nicaragua and all this kind of stuff, but my prestige is wearing thin. It's wearing thin. I'm becoming one of them. Because of my family, and really, I'm serious, I'm telling you, Next thing you know, I'll be thrown in jail too for something. I can still get out of all parking tickets and stuff, not parking, moving violation tickets, just a talk. There's a prestige. These people, and I'm not going to say necessarily why, but they really put a lot of weight in the fact that the people from the countries whose like 1 square block is the equivalent of their GDP take the time to pay attention to what they're doing, and in this case, who are asking them to participate in something which is so important, but we're not willing to recognize that they're doing it down there. That's the killer. We're getting killed down there because people have been ignoring us for this time, and I don't think it's all my fault, because I've been trying to send emails, and I know that people are like, oh, it's that Nicaraguan thing that he's just so pushy and all this kind of stuff, like, help, as I'm trying to say, and I'm trying to do it in a nice way, say, come participate and use your own criteria. But the reason I came here was to explain to you all, not even you all, I wish there was, the Georgist leadership of the world, we time to get together and do something and take action. And we're saying, here's an action you can take. Just take the damn test, right? Fill out a couple lines in a form, and you're a member, and that means so much to this project. May not mean anything to you, may mean nothing to you, but it means something to us. Now, do you want to support it, or are you just saying, screw you, you know, because you're competing for limited funding and all this kind of crap I've heard, right? Because I don't care. I'll give you my funding. You want the $8,000?
Yeah.
All right? So that might happen. That might happen. Because I'm not going to be working for that anymore. You know? And the other thing, that's just for real. 15 years of this stuff, and I don't get off on this kind of thing. I'm at the stage now that if I'm not going to be part of a movement, I'm not interested. I don't need it. I don't need it. And I also say to the Georgists down there, our members, if you don't show up for meetings, I don't care either. If you don't care, I don't care. This is the big change. This is the year of change for Paul Martin, which could be the year of change for the Henry George. No, for real. For real. This is the year of change. There's been a lot of change, and this is the change that's coming about. I'm saying now it's your program. And if this program also is not going to be yours, I don't care. The reason we're doing nothing this year except for one class we had is because the Henry George School, and I'm wondering why they don't have a representative here to hear me say this to their face.
They do have a representative.
Oh, whoever it is. Answer's a very nice person, though. No, I mean a real representative. All right? No, they don't. No, they don't. They have huh? Is there a board member for the Henry George School?
Henry George School sitting right in the room here. His name's Irving Starr.
Okay. Irving, are you here? There you go. So here it comes. And it's not even the board. They couldn't write a damn check in March until June. So we had to cancel not just one class, 2 classes. And that is like potentially 180 students and 50 members. So our program just got shot dead right there, because it's all about momentum too, right? So we've lost participation of our other members who are coming and saying, you know, and it's not necessarily just for that too, but it's like it's just like an ongoing 24-hour struggle to keep people interested in this kind of thing. Movement building, it's not about having the great idea. It's about getting people together and all the necessary little things you do it, like having a conference, right? So I'm really talking strongly because I feel very deeply. You can imagine why I've been doing this for 15 years, and you have no idea how many hours a day, you know, maybe you do. You have an idea. You do have an idea.
Building your building. You didn't talk about what you went through to put that building up.
Yeah, why did I decide to put a second floor that is just a whole open kind of thing?
100
I wish I should
people.
show you some pictures, but this is just our patio, our front patio with bathrooms there. We got a whole setup with about this size, including out to the exit there, more, and we have divided into 2 separate. Each one has a projector, built-in projector in the ceiling, and all this kind of stuff, and we're ready to go, you know? I mean, it's a nice setup. Thank you for mentioning that.
Oh, I mean,
And that was dedicated
for
to do
watching you
that.
from a distance, and then the few days I was with you, to see all the difficulty to build a building in Managua. I mean, what a headache in a lot of ways you went through every brick of the way.
Yeah, not poor me, because, I mean, that's my building. I own it. Yeah, so.
Yeah, but to get it built.
Right. I mean,
To work
yeah,
with
I'm saying, but the
people.
reason was built was to be used specifically by the center and to have people in it and all this kind of stuff. Yes, so that's the deal. So we got this facility, and I'd like to see it being used. But my main thing, my reason of talking to you today is that without you, there is nothing. And it's not like it's your fault. I have no problem. Because one of my proposals for international cooperation is I think we should put everything up that's going on and say, this works, this doesn't, this works, this doesn't. And if they say, my program doesn't work, I'll say, oh no, you mean I'm not going to be able to do this anymore? That's why I have no fear of the Nicaraguan government coming and shutting down our NGO. Like if I screw up on some tax thing, they're going to come and say, you will not be able to bring money into our country anymore. I'm just making up the accent, sorry. We will not let you bring in money from outside the country anymore and educate our people. You will not be able to work anymore. And I'll be like, oh God, don't do that to me. Thank you very much. It's not going to happen though, unfortunately, probably. You know? Because that'd be a great excuse, wouldn't it? I could say, dear Georgist, I couldn't continue because they threatened to throw me out the country, so can't do it anymore. Now, God, this is me, which got me started on this whole thing, wants this to be happening. For me, okay? Not your God, this is something that goes beyond that Paul Martin wants to do this, you know? And I'm speaking strongly, I'm speaking kind of, because it's about time, really, it's about time. I don't even know how much time there is, right? I just want to make sure that you get the message, because I am about to hang up my Georgist gloves if I don't get help, because physically I can't do it, physically. I can't do it alone. And Nicaragua, I've come to decide to see that the Nicaraguans without the external help can't do it either. And think about it for a second. What kind of meaningful revolution ever in a sovereign nation even, you know, just the Nicaraguan revolution, you think it would have happened without international support? Costa Rica, you know, the Nicaraguan Sandinista revolution, you say, well, there's an indigenous movement. It wasn't. It's always being supported by outside help, by leadership.
Where does Sandinistas get their funds for their revolution?
Yeah, funds, arms, they could run across the border to Costa Rica. This is all things that made their revolution successful. So there's no revolution that is isolated, you know, really from the, well, I shouldn't say that because there's always going to be examples, right? But in this case, it's very clear to me. And what I've done with this project, I should probably finish this up here. So this is our Georgist Community Fund progress, right? Growing, growing, growing. And here's the last year. You see over here? This is our current year here, up to June. And that's no problem that it's low because we're only halfway through the year practically, right? But it should be much higher. You see how it's growing? See, that's the only thing that ever kept me going was the growth. Because I'm not interested in just doing the same thing over and over again. I don't care about teaching Georgist and people are just going to go off and then have a fond memory of the class. I want this to grow. So it's like grow, grow, grow. It's growing, and that's my message. It's a good project because it's growing. That's where my program, this talk should have been a success story with a question mark. They forgot the question mark. Because it's only going to be a success if it goes to the next step. And I'm telling you that this program, at least, the next step is for a massive participation of Georgist leadership, real leadership. And who you're going to be leading? Just everyone who looks and say, no, and that's your decision. If you say, well, you know, after hearing you talk, you know, it's still, you know, it's not my cup of tea, someone told me, it's just not, I'm not interested in that, it's a little bit religious or whatever they want to make up about it, reason. And that's fine, because people make up whatever, they do what they're going to do and then they make up their reason for doing or not doing it. I'm just telling you what the story is here. That this is a program that has demonstrated that it can build a movement. And this is just in Nicaragua, and this is without international support except a tiny little fund, a teeny tiny little fund, and my personal sacrifice of my family to do this. And it's got a trajectory. There it goes. And this could just keep on going. Grow, grow, grow. Because it's growable, in other words. It's not like, oh. Let me see what else I have. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, you can't see the right. But here you can compare. The Georgist Community Fund is in purple, and these are the course things. And you see how it's like goes up, goes up, goes up. As the class goes up, the thing goes up. I mean, just it's predictable. And what's the last fun part of the predictable picture? Performance results are directly related to funding, or in other words, resources that are put into it. This is something like, you know, you say, well, is it a good investment? Is it something I want to participate in? I'd say, yeah. That's what I'm proving. And I am willing to, someone comes up to me and say, you know, I'd be willing to get on your board and this or that, or, you know, would we be able to take the program into our organization? Fine. This is not about me, right? It's not about, it needs to be brought together. It has to be brought together. Again, if people feel threatened that, well, if we kind of rallied around yours, that diminishes me, it's okay, well, then take it from me. I don't care. But that's just the point I want to make. Because don't count on Paul Martin out in the world. And this is how I feel. I'm out here in this savage territory where it's kind of difficult to work feeling like you're alone as the only representative of the Georgist world. There's something about that that's so important. The people that we work with do not buy it. If I were not there, they're not going to buy it. They need to get, there will be a point. There will be a point. We will find some indigenous leader who has that power at some point, but everything is transferred. Without Ted, I wouldn't be here. Without Lindy, wouldn't be here. You know? And I'm not talking just for one moment, oh, hi, Ted, I met you, and now, okay, now I'm a Georgist. Ted's ongoing support. He's vice president. He didn't need to be vice president, he did it to support this thing. Lindy spent years working and supporting. Alan's a member here, and without Alan, I'd be that much weaker too. That's what all it's about. It's all about us supporting each other in those things. And if it's too much, if it's overwhelming and everything, then I think we should talk about consolidating. right? If it's too much, then we're all over. Am I running out of time, is that what you're saying? I don't even know.
15 minutes.
Okay, so I think maybe it's time, because I am at the end of the PowerPoint thing, and I was actually going to try to do, just talk for half the time, but it was very important for me to say this, and I want to be real with you about this. If you value this program, you need to get involved. I'm just kind of like doing a service for the Georgist community. That's how I look at it. I'm doing a service. This is not my ego thing. This is not my, how I want to live my life and all this kind of stuff. I, for some reason, was inspired to do this, and then this year, it's just like, this is the year change. I am not doing this anymore by myself. And I told it to them in Nicaragua, and I'm telling it to you, and the ones who are not here, who I wish were here too, that it's time for the Georgist movement, at least as far as I'm concerned, around activities that really work, that we need to get together and push these things ahead with money, and the minimum effort that we can do as individuals to like say, I'll be a member of your association. Like, I think I'm a member of the Henry George Institute of Lindy. Why did I do it? To support the Henry George Institute with just being a member. I'm a member of the International Union. Why did I do it? Same reason of the CGO. It's not for me, it's to support those organizations. Do I agree with everything they do? Do I think they're wonderful and fantastic? Not all the time, but I'm a member because I'm a team player. And I want to play on a team about this. And I feel like I'm kind of scolding people.
You are.
Yeah,
I am. But and I want to ask your forgiveness.
You're getting burned
I want to
out.
ask your forgiveness for this. Yes, I am a burned out person, and I don't take it personally because it's not even about any one of you individually
We've
either.
all burned out too, and we're here because we kind of got a new
All right. Well, good. Yeah.
batteries charged.
Right. But unfortunately for me, coming to this kind of organization is not enough of a recharge, and I'm trying to be real specific about the actual practical element of this. Okay, and I can't, it's only a limited time, I can't really talk about even all the experience of basically coming with a program and say, I'm doing this, and then being totally ignored by people who before emailed you and then don't email you anymore when you ask them to support your program and give you the reason that like you're, So there's yeah, okay, take some questions.
Just so everybody can see it.
Statements, really.
Strikes me as a good idea.
Opposite.
Sorry? Just up.
So we can all see him.
Well, I thought that was the idea. Yep. Well, thanks very much, Paul. I mean, I've learned a lot. I have received your emails and I've ignored them.
Just step up another step.
Oh, is that? No, that don't make any difference. Is there something
Speak
you have
up.
to switch on?
We can hear you.
People in front of him, right?
Okay. Oh, that's awful, isn't it? No, all I wanted to do really say, Paul, is thank you. Just much appreciated that. I hadn't appreciated. I have received your emails. I'm pretty awful on emails generally, but I don't think I've opened any of yours recently at all. Just haven't looked at them. It's just another one of the things that comes through and you say, I'm too busy, got something else on, or it's just not been noticed. So I'm very appreciative of having seen what you've done, which strikes me as being extraordinarily valuable. I'm certainly reminded my experience in not a dissimilar places in Bangladesh, where again I just recognise how the credibility of a foreigner coming in and providing something is extraordinarily valuable, and valued, I should say, by the local people. And I can well imagine how this has worked, but what I haven't appreciated is how much you've achieved. And I'm not entirely clear though, now, what do you want beyond being a membership? You emphasised when you said money. How much money do you want?
No, I'm not allowed to talk about money,
You're not talking about
right?
Right.
And I'm not really interested in talking about specifics about that.
Be clear then what it is you're hoping for us.
But I want to just make one little point here. Our membership is now 80-something, our success. If we decided that we just wanted...
Paul, you were talking about the Georgist Community Fund.
Yeah.
And it's not real clear that your school and all the great work and classes and students it seems amalgamated to me the way you express it. And when you say our success or failure, you talk about the Georgist Community Fund, and it's mixed up with your classes. You see it as all one piece or something? Either we support the Georgist Community Fund or we don't, and you out?
Classes. The only reason the classes exist is for the Georgist Community Fund at this stage. The only reason the classes exist for the Georgist Community Fund at this stage. Classes, Georgist Community Fund. That's exactly, I think I mentioned that I got to the point where I said, I'm not willing to teach this over and over and over again in an ineffectual way. And I was reminded also by people, you know, in Dominican Republic, there was a lady who for decades taught, and then nothing ever came of it. And that was also part of the justification for less funding also. I mean, we're not really convinced, and I agreed. My point again, put everything up on the board. If this program doesn't look like it's worth it, I insist it not be funded. And I just want to talk about performance. We have kept the most strict criteria and quantification of our membership. You have to demonstrate that you're a competent Georgist to do it. I could just as easily, out of our hundreds of members, say, here, you want to be a member? Sign here. And we could say, we've got 500 members today, and you'd never know the difference. We try to make this as completely transparent and real, so that it's something that you decide, I either want to go with it or I don't. You know, not like I'm not quite, sure. We got it all up on the website. It's all there. And I'm challenging people to value this thing and tell me thumbs up or thumbs down, because this is now a project of the Georgist community, whatever that is. That's just what my message is. Do not count on me working for free anymore. I just can't do it. Can't do it. Our, $8,000, $9,000, $12,000, and you come down, and I invite you also, whatever, come down and take a look. Atlanta saw it before it was even as developed as it is now. I think you'll, really appreciate what we've done. And when Ted came down, just because Ted was there, we had twice as many people came out to greet him. That's the power of the international participation. This one person comes down and they came over from another country. That means so much in this second poorest country in the world, practically, not in the world, but in the Western Hemisphere kind of thing. So all this stuff is going on. I'm sorry I can't explain it all in this session. That's why it's difficult, and I hope that I'm not being overly misinterpreted, but, limited time, right? 15-year project in, an hour and a half.
You're not looking for money.
Excuse me, before you go further, there's 4 people behind you. with
Okay,
10
I didn't
minutes.
get an answer to my question about money.
I don't think you will.
Of course, look, if you're interested in supporting the project, I totally forgot, I'm sorry. You can become a member easily. Get yourself an information sheet out at our table.
I was rejected. I'm not a good enough Georgist.
Well, I'll talk to you about that.
I can understand
You specifically
that.
said you weren't interested. I have the email. You want me to tell them what you said?
I'm going to mediate that conflict later today.
So anyway, we have this is our big application. It's going to take you hours to fill out. That's all you got to do is fill it out. It's a formality, really, and then we'll set up that you can take the online exam at your convenience, here, there, or anywhere, and that's all you have to do. And then you'd have to look at the declaration form and then sign that I'm agreed with this declaration form, and that's your membership. So that's something you can do right now, is take the first step, sign, fill in the application to start the process, and that's what I want. That's what I want. And yes, of course, I want tons and tons of money. Of course, who doesn't, right? But that's things that are going to get worked out, right? So, but I'm not here to beg for money. I'm trying to say, what do you want to do? Do you want to support this thing? And I'm just going to look at what my resources and capabilities are, and I'm going to take the decision I need to take.
Just for some background, there's been 2 supporters of the organization, the Henry George School and the Robert Schockenbach Foundation, and they've been averaging around $9,000 a year. That money is entirely spent on promotion of the classes, getting the classes going. Paul is not paid his salary. He's devoting his entire life to this. His family, and he built that building. There was no money given, to my knowledge, by Schockenbach or anyone else. He's been doing this for 15 years. And, basically what he's asking specifically, what he wants specifically, is to have more members to sign up, so show that we're interested. Mason Gaffney signs up and he takes the test every year, just like I do. I enjoy it. It's fun to take this test because it reminds you of progress and poverty. You have 50 questions and you try to get everyone right, but you miss one, so what? I'm glad I can get 98% usually. So really what he wants is he wants everyone here to say, yeah, I want to be a member of the community fund. It costs nothing. He doesn't ask you for any money. He just says, become a member. That shows that he has some support. That shows that there are Georgists in the world that care about what he's doing. And that, I think, will at least give him the feeling like the Georgist movement is behind him, and that perhaps the Georgist movement will grow in the future because those of us that are committed to it are willing to put our name on a thing and say, yes, I want to support him.
This is, again, the website. There's so much, we have so much digital investment in this website, you couldn't look through it for a whole day. And here's the Georgist Community Fund, which is a sub part of the website. We're totally transparent. Every day we update. We have 83 members. We wish we had more, but we're going to tell you the truth. And we have our little fund here, which I didn't even mention, which is just basically our way of practicing the contribution and distribution of land rent in a symbolic way amongst ourselves. That's just what it is, okay? And that's a contribution of members within. That's not part of an operating fund. It is the members' fund that is for distribution. It's just a practice of kind of symbolizing land rent. And then if you want to look at the members, you click here, and here you can see how few international members we have. And these are all our Nicaraguan members, and the one that are in red that need to renew, and we're in crisis now with that. And it's just that it is what it is. You can see exactly what it is.
In some of my efforts to promote Henry George, I tried to plug into the Catholic social action, and I was surprised to hear you're a Catholic. I think, in fact, you would be an ideal poster child for Catholic social action. Maybe you should think of trying to plug into that. Maybe you could get some support.
I'm actually not Catholic. I'm sorry. I'm from a
Oh, you're
Catholic
not?
family.
Oh,
My kids are in a Catholic school, but
Oh.
I am not a practicing
You're not Catholic? Oh, okay.
I like Catholics. They're fine.
Well, I think you've taken on the hardest gig in Georgia, and I congratulate you for that. And I know you're passionate about what you do, and obviously there's some, meeting some obstacles along the way. I'm surprised my name's not up there, but that's because I've received emails and I've not answered them. I've not done the test in the last year or so. I'll correct that as soon as I get back to it. There's no other Australians there, and I actually believe in what you're doing. I think it's where we have to go into countries like this, because I've run courses in Tasmania. I feel lonely doing it in a first world country, and people do exactly the same thing. They do the course, and I entertain them for whatever time it takes, and then they move on. And I hardly hear them again unless I go back and call them all together for a meeting and present them with something else. So I understand your frustration with that, but I think you've got the potential to actually achieve a lot more than what I can in a first world country, just by working in a country like Nicaragua. So,
That's the thing. They will never do it alone, not you or me.
yeah.
And it's about giving them something. This is the thing. People who graduate from a course of yours, they can become members. People who graduate or just whatever, become certified at whatever the level that we agree on, they can become members. And the point is being a member. Why is that such a bad thing? Why is it bad that there's 300 people listed at Georgist in some place? And that we can communicate. I think this would be the human base for the media, social media linking. I wanted to, I've got great dreams for the website, or a website where people can chat and communicate and all this kind of stuff. I'm not even up on the latest kind of stuff. But I think the basic ingredient is people, real people that can, not just like, well, they took our class, I'm going to count them because it makes our numbers look good. Again, we could do that too. We could have 500 members tomorrow if I wanted to count up people. But it's about people who are in contact. That's why these people in red, they haven't come back and done their exam. Sorry, they're not members anymore. They even think they are. They think they're members. We send them an email and someone will come to a meeting and we have a column and it says, M for member and S for just regular graduate, and people might put M and say, sorry, you haven't renewed. You're not a member. We're just very real about it. It is what it is. You want to be a member, you got to, jump through the hoop and be with the group.
Anyway, so I don't have a question anymore because you've answered it there. I was going to ask how many Australians, because I've tried to promote this in Australia, just to do with the test and become members in that spirit of international support. But I can see there's none, and so I'll try and do something about that as soon as I go back.
My question is, if you want to look, is this a failure of the Henry George Center or the Georgist Community Fund? However you want to look at it, it really doesn't matter. This is a resource that I'm offering to the Georgist community if we are enough of a community to be able to function that way, That's all. So what do you want to do with it? What do you want to do with it? Or you want to say, nice effort, it was nice, but we're not, you can do that in Nicaragua. Nope. No more.
Well, I'm Nicholas Rosen here, and I have contributed to the Instituto Henry George in the past. Now, I didn't really get with this Georgist Community Fund and all that, but I am, I'm going to get back in touch, contribute. I'm not sure whether I can pass the test. That's
We're out of time.
okay. Well, okay. So we're out of time. Look, I'll help you.
Well, thank you. I just feel glad that to be here, to be able to listen to on this thing. This is my whole purpose of being here. People who want to ask me about things, now I can speak because I can no longer say I'll be speaking about that in my presentation tomorrow. So I'm just happy to be here, and I'm glad to see all of you. It actually has been a real pleasure to see a lot of the same faces from many years ago. I am concerned personally that there's some faces that aren't here that I deeply feel should be here. And there's just so many issues of our Georgist movement that need to be tackled. I hope the young people step up and start and ask those questions on the front line about, make this worth your time, right? Make it worth your while to be here and to be part of if we're not going to grow, what's going to happen? So, I thought you said we're done. We're not done.
No, we're out of time.
So I
We have to set up your
Paul, I'm Irving Starra. I'm
And when we're out of time, it's not an interruption.
I'm a trustee. I'm on the board of the Henry George School in New York, and I'm also a vice president. I commend you for what you're doing in Nicaragua, and the school has been happy to give you financial support for a number of years. Every year I'm sure we have given you several $1,000s every year to support your effort in what you're doing in Nicaragua, and to try to advance the ideas of Henry George. I do have a number of questions to ask you.
Well, you can ask him privately.
Maybe.
We need to set up for the next events.
Well, how much time do I have?
We're already over time.
Talk to him personally is what he's saying.
Talk to him. He'll be here.
Yeah.
Okay, then I'll have to speak with you personally.
Thank you very much, everybody.